Uncle Dong moved ahead of the group. He summoned his wolf-like spirit beast. He placed it right in the center of the battlefield. Yuan felt uneasy, seeing it surrounded on all sides. Uncle Dong told him not to rush. He said the beast needed some time to prepare. Then he commanded the pack to hunt. The spirit beast was a shadow dreadwolf from the dreadwolf genus of the Dark Fang clan. It was monarch rank, 10 out of 10, with outstanding quality. Its ultimate skill was Eclipse Domain. It had Bite, which tore enemies apart and caused bleeding. Claw Strike ripped enemies with deadly force. Pounce Lock used gravity to suppress and capture targets, with effectiveness based on the enemy's strength. Black Ray fired dark element energy from its mouth, dealing heavy magic damage. Ban Owl Howl released a powerful sonic attack. Its passive skill, Night Stalker, enhanced tracking and senses. Its special trait, Shadow Entity, made its energy nearly endless when fighting in darkness. Yuan was deeply impressed. The skill set and trait were perfectly suited for long battles with high burst damage. Just watching the fight made the trip worthwhile. In a blink, the enemies were wiped out. Uncle Dong told Yuan that it was not dangerous at all. Yuan noticed that Yin Yin was acting strangely, so he asked her what was wrong. She said that something was watching them. She was right. A crow hovered nearby. Its eyes were red, its chest was open, and white bones were exposed. Yuan still believed the trip would not be dangerous. Smarty felt relieved hearing that. Yin Yin suddenly jumped out of Yuan's arms and warned him to be careful. She said something felt wrong. Yuan shouted for her to stop. That was when he realized Auntie Sue and Uncle Dong were gone. A strange feeling washed over him. When he looked again, he realized he was riding on the back of the eerie giant crow. Uncle Dong said he felt uneasy. Auntie Sue reminded him not to lower his guard because it felt like something was still waiting for them. He complained that she had jinxed it. She told Yuan to stay put while they dealt with the small threats. She assured him there was nothing to worry about. Her Fluff Feather Snow Owl unleashed Snow Feather Spike. Several spirit beasts were wiped out at once. Uncle Dong thought that was the most dangerous situation they would face that day. But Auntie Sue felt something was off. Yuan had not moved for a long time, so she told Uncle Dong to check on him. When Uncle Dong checked, Yuan's face looked normal and his breathing was steady. He told her that Yuan was just asleep. In truth, Yuan's consciousness was falling. Yin Yin shouted for him to grab onto her, so he grabbed her small legs. Smarty told her to hold on tightly. She tried her best, but she could not keep her grip, and all of them fell. Yuan felt strange. It did not feel like he was falling from a height. Instead, it felt like the ground was welcoming him. Since he was not injured at all, he wondered if the enemy did not want him dead. A voice said he was right. It said that the beings outside the rift controlled all the land and resources, while those inside had to fight and bleed just to survive. It was the crow. It offered him a bet. If the crow won, Yuan would have to stay there forever. Yuan was shocked that it could speak. But the crow did not want to talk any longer. It was angry that they kept calling it an insectoid when it did not even have the right to live in peace outside the rift. The spirit beast summoned a group of wolves. Yin Yin attacked with turbulence. She shouted at it to stay away from Yuan. Smarty bragged that they even had a big bird and a big wolf on their side. At the mention of those spirit beasts, the crow created creepy copies of Auntie Sue and Uncle Dong. It used its power to restrain Yin Yin and Smarty. Wolves surrounded them as their strength was slowly drained. They shouted for Yuan to run. Yuan covered them in a golden aura and told them to calm their minds. Smarty was confused about what was happening. Yuan realized everything around them was an illusion. Uncle Dong and Auntie Sue were not really there. They had disappeared because the crow could not pull them into the illusion. The crow was called the Lord of the Three Ravens, from the Corvidae family. It was elite tier, level 2. It was a psychic-type spirit beast with common quality. One of its skills was Eye of Illusory Dreams. When it stared at an enemy, it could drag them into a low-level illusion, forcing them to see terrifying scenes that weakened their will. This only worked on weaker spirit creatures. It was shocked that Yuan had seen through it. It never expected a human kid to break free from its power. This only made it more determined to kill him. Smarty asked if the attacks were illusions too. Yin Yin said they felt real. Yuan told them that the damage was real. The Lord of the Three Ravens warned them that its next attack would not be fake. Yuan noticed that its technique was almost a perfect copy of elite-class spirit beast skills. Yuan told Yin Yin to use turbulence to attack their legs. Then Smarty was to strike their faces when they opened up. He explained that they were illusion clones, so they should be weak. Yin Yin followed his order. Smarty rushed in and scratched them. To their shock, the clones were not affected at all. Yuan told the Lord of the Three Ravens that fighting like this was pointless and that it could not win, but the crow disagreed. Yuan was human and had spirit beasts. It was an abnormal insect that had nothing. Suddenly, the crow leveled up inside the illusion. It lunged at Yuan, shouting that battle brought satisfaction, destruction created fairness, and slaughter restored balance. It raged about how humans enjoyed food and clean air, while creatures inside the rift killed each other just to live. A wolf was about to bite Yuan. The source seed slipped out of his pocket. Yin Yin and Smarty were being overwhelmed as well. The crow believed that survival only led to pain, and destruction was the path to eternity. Suddenly, golden light burst through the wolves. The crow froze in shock. Yuan was unharmed. The source seed was actively resisting the illusion. Yuan realized the crow's power could strengthen nearby spirit beasts. But that same power could be turned against it. He told Yin Yin to strike its weak point and finish it. They already knew where it was. They charged forward. The crow's body was cut apart. It looked disappointed, as if it had hoped its luck would change, but Yuan had won. Yuan saw a slaughter rune inside its remains. He wondered if the true nature of exotic beasts was endless killing. After that, Uncle Dong shook him awake and said they were heading back. He asked if the flock of crows had scared him. Yuan opened his eyes and said no. Uncle Dong told Auntie Sue that Yuan looked exhausted. Yuan asked Uncle Dong where he should train if he wanted to become stronger. Uncle Dong told him to go to the Star Tower, the best place for real combat training. It was late at night. Smarty and Yin Yin were fast asleep. Yuan took the source seed out from the pot of cores. He remembered what happened inside the illusion. The seed only changed after absorbing his blood. Now he knew what it would look like after evolving, and he also knew that contracting with it required blood. So he cut his hand. He let the blood drip onto the seed. He decided to take a gamble, hoping it would become a spirit creature with offensive power. He was shocked by how quickly it absorbed his blood. Suddenly, he heard a loud voice in his mind, urging him to keep going and not stop. They were now connected mentally, and Yuan could feel an overwhelming sense of hunger coming from it. He lost so much blood that his face turned pale. He relied on the Lily Luara to slow the bleeding. Eventually, it stopped. The seed had turned into a plant. He did not expect it to need that much blood. Since it was plant-based, he thought it might have something like a carnivorous plant's mouth, just like it did in the illusion. What appeared before him was a strange humanoid plant. It had a rose-like flower for a head and a wide grin filled with sharp teeth. Yuan stared in amazement. This was exactly what he wanted. From that moment on, he named it Red Thorn. He tried feeding it a radish, but it shook its head. He tried giving it a core, but it refused again. Yuan grew nervous. He was afraid it wanted more of his blood, and he knew he could not handle that again. Smarty woke up and told him to get some sleep. Yuan said he was fine. He knew that Smarty and Yin Yin were exhausted from the previous day. Smarty noticed the plant and realized it looked similar to the one from the illusion. Yuan introduced it as Red Thorn, their new companion. Smarty became excited. He asked if it would be as strong as it was back then. Feeling a bit jealous, he also asked if he would become stronger too. Yuan warned him not to rush. Smarty was only at elite rank for now. Once he reached the copper tier, there would be a major change, and he would step into a completely new level. Yin Yin woke up and asked what they were talking about. Yuan suggested that they all rest and recover for now, so they could prepare to break through to the copper tier. A week later, they gathered in the backyard. Yuan's body had recovered a lot. While nurturing the source seed, his spiritual energy had also become purer. Breaking through to the copper tier should no longer be difficult. Golden energy wrapped around Yin Yin. She evolved into a flowing cloud azure bird from the blue sparrow family of the winged bird genus. She reached copper tier, 1 out of 10. She had sound and air attributes and common quality. Her skills were Sound Spike, which fired 3 sound-formed spikes at a target, and Turbulent Flow, where she flapped her wings to release fast and unstable air currents. Yuan felt confused. Normally, there should have been a songstress bird stage between her old form and this one. But Yin Yin barely changed at elite rank, and her species had stayed the same. It felt like she had skipped a stage entirely. Now it was time to choose her trait. The options were Oily Feathers, which reduced damage by coating her feathers with oil; Clear Skies, which dispersed clouds and cleared the sky after her song ended; and Borrowed Wind, which reduced stamina use during flight. Yuan did not expect to see 3 choices. He thought carefully. In group fights like the one in the illusion, reducing damage or moving faster might still lead to them being controlled. but an ability that changed the weather could help them escape danger or even counterattack, just like Daisy once did. In the end, he chose clear skies. Smarty told Yin that she looked more refined now. Yin was delighted. She said she could now sing and dance at the same time during her live streams. Smarty got excited and said it was his turn next. Yuan told him not to rush. When the process started, Smarty looked uncomfortable. Yuan was about to suggest stopping, but Smarty insisted on continuing. Yuan finished it as quickly as possible. Smarty's spiritual energy was very stable, so Yuan believed there would be no issue. Smarty suddenly told him to wait. His nose felt itchy. When he sneezed, his appearance changed. Yuan was disappointed by how plain the evolution looked. Yin encouraged Smarty to check himself, so she brought over a mirror. Smarty was thrilled. He said he now looked like a scholar. The trait selection appeared with 3 options. The first was Dust Ward, which repelled dust and kept the surroundings clean. The second was Item Form, which allowed him to turn into an item for his contractor to use. The third was Pain Amplification, which multiplied the pain felt by enemies after he attacked them, based on a mental force check. From a combat standpoint, Dust Ward countered earth and sand users. Pain Amplification increased damage output. As for Item Form, it felt like a gamble. Smarty suggested choosing Item Form. Yuan asked if he was sure. Smarty explained that he was not a combat-type spirit creature, so the other 2 options would not help him much in battle. Yuan thought the explanation was brutally honest. Smarty rushed toward him and threatened that if he turned into something useless, he would cut off his own tail and end it all. Smarty's new status appeared. He was now a Bikesun beast from the spirit feline family of the Wisdom Cat genus. He was Copper Tier, 1 out of 10. He was a mental-type spirit creature with common quality. His skills included precise memory, which allowed him to remember even the smallest details, and knowledge analysis, which let him analyze stored information from multiple angles. His exclusive trait was Item Form, allowing him to transform into an item for his contractor. Yuan activated Item Form. Smarty turned into a pair of glasses. Smarty was disappointed. Yuan told him they would not know its real power until he wore them. Yuan put on the glasses. When he looked at Yin, information appeared. It showed that she was happy with her evolution. It also revealed her thoughts, like how she was craving chestnut and meat floss bread from the next street. A profile of the flowing cloud azure bird appeared as well, explaining that they usually lived in high mountains. There was even a reminder telling Yuan not to forget to brush her feathers. He was deeply impressed. Then he noticed something else. Redthorn's thoughts contained only one thing: aberrant insects. Yuan realized that this must be what Redthorn wanted to eat. Sister Xin answered Yuan's call and told him that she had insect corpses and could give them to him for free. Even 100 wouldn't be a problem. After the call, she fell into thought. This time, Yuan didn't ask for spiritual materials. Instead, he wanted insect corpses. It made her curious about what kind of breeding base he was building, and she started considering giving him a small test. Yuan didn't expect her to really have them. Smarty was the one who told him she would. Soon enough, he received the delivery. He fed one of the insect corpses to Redthorn, but Redthorn swallowed everything in the bucket in one go. After eating, it started glowing. Yuan wondered if it was about to evolve. Redthorn was a predatory plant from the Romaceae, Rafflesia family. Its spiritual level was normal, and its spiritual type was source type. Its skill was Mouth of Ritual, which allowed it to secrete massive amounts of digestive fluid. The fluid was extremely corrosive and could rapidly digest energy from food. It dumped the remaining contents of the bucket straight into its mouth. Yin complained that it had terrible manners. Smarty added that its saliva was corrosive too, making it quite dangerous. Yuan reassured them that it was only acting like that because it was starving, so there was nothing to worry about. Yuan realized that its appetite was frightening. The 300 corpses he bought would last at most 3 days, especially with the addition of dragon beast blood. He started wondering if the cash flow from his small online shop could keep up. When he checked his balance, he had 398.2 Radiance coins. It was a huge amount. He noticed that the Spirit Siphon goldfish and copper-grade green vines were selling extremely well. He would need to restock again. A new message arrived from Cloudstream. She complained that she couldn't even find a single transparent web and demanded that he send 5 more as soon as possible. Right after that, she transferred the money. Yuan commented that her luck was terrible. Because of her order, he now had to restock web-spraying spiders as well. Yin and Smarty overheard him and immediately demanded that he take them along. Yuan asked why, since he was only going to restock. Yin explained that ever since they returned from the dimensional rift, they wanted to know how strong they really were. Smarty added that they didn't want to be helpless again if they encountered exotic insects. Yuan joked that if that was the case, then if a sudden crisis hit Xia County next time, they would become Radiance heroes. Yin became excited, saying that would make them one of a kind in the Federation. Smarty, however, said that wasn't true. He then told them a story. 2 years ago, in Frost City of the Radiance Federation, a member of the Radiance 100 sequence ranked 39 faced a Class 3-dimensional rift alone. He held back the insect tide by himself for 30 minutes, stopping Frost City from turning into a living hell. Yuan was impressed that Smarty even knew about something like that. Smarty said he had read old news articles when he got tired of studying. Yin asked what happened to that 100 sequence member afterward. Meanwhile, inside a shop, a staff member argued with the boss about pinning their hopes on a shop that had suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Sister Shin asked if they had a problem with her sales strategy. The staff complained that she had used a huge amount of funds to buy dragon beast blood and was now purchasing insect corpses in massive quantities. The buyer, she claimed, was just a newly opened shop on the Star Web. To them, it sounded unreasonable. They were worried that if she got scammed, they wouldn't even be able to pay salaries next month. At that moment, Yuan walked in and commented that things seemed lively. He asked if he had come at a bad time since it looked like they were arguing. Sister Shin smiled and said it was just a simple meeting to plan their main products for the next quarter, and everyone was sharing opinions. Yuan didn't pry further. He told her he wanted to buy 3,000 insect corpses. On top of that, he needed 10,000 pounds of low-grade energy ores, half a pound of butterfly shells, 40 normal-grade spirit siphon goldfish, and 5 elite-grade level 10 web-spraying spiders of perfect quality. He paid everything up front. The staff turned pale when they heard the size of the order and the upfront payment. Sister Shin asked why they were still standing around. She introduced Yuan as the partner of their new shop and told them to give him VIP treatment. The staff immediately became enthusiastic and helped him with everything. Sister Shin had already guessed that he would restock normal-grade spirit siphon goldfish, but she believed he would also be interested in something special. She brought out a pregnant elite-grade spirit siphon goldfish mother, 5 Fortune Ranchu. Yuan was stunned. A spirit siphon goldfish could produce over 1,000 offspring in a single pregnancy. Normally, without enough spiritual energy, most of the eggs wouldn't survive. But inside the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone spirit pool, survival wouldn't be an issue at all. On top of that, 5 Fortune Ranchu was extremely popular. Yuan took it without hesitation. He also asked to collect the dragon beast blood he had ordered earlier. Sister Shin smiled, satisfied that her guess was correct. She suspected there was a creation master behind Yuan's shop. Anyone capable of handling a pregnant 5 Fortune Ranchu had to be at least a 2-star creation master or higher. The prices were quickly settled. Dragon beast blood cost 240 Radiance coins, the 5 Fortune Ranchu cost 80, and the web-spraying spiders, energy ores, and other items totaled 60 Radiance coins. After completing the transaction, Yuan left. The staff personally saw him off, now fully aware that they had underestimated Sister Shin's connections. Smarty asked where they were heading next. Yuan asked if they still wanted to test their strength. If so, they could go to the Star Tower that Uncle Dong had mentioned. Star Tower was one of the most unique facilities on the Star Web. It offered training, simulated battles, and ladder matches. It also hosted many combat-type competitions and was known as a paradise for combat spiritual creatures. Smarty stared at the towering structure. Players could only climb 1 floor for every win, and they had to fight at least once a month. He had heard that there was a promotion match on the 100th floor. Passing it would allow them to enter the ladder and become Hall of Fame level players. Yuan told him he was getting ahead of himself. Reaching the 100th floor on their first climb was impossible. Yuan informed the staff that he was registering for the first time. The staff member didn't even look up. While reading his book, he told Yuan to fill out the form himself and said they would input the information later. He warned Yuan not to disturb him, since the Creation Master exam was coming up soon. Smarty frowned at the lack of hospitality, but Yuan understood. With the exam approaching, everyone was under pressure. The form submission was successful. Yuan was told to stand still until the scan finished. The results showed the 100 Questions Beast and the Soundbird at Bronze Rank 1, while Mobius was Elite Rank 7 with epic quality. All records, matches, wins, losses, and highest floor were at 0. The staff member was surprised by Yuan's spirit beasts. Some of them were things he couldn't even recognize. Smarty commented that he seemed to be the only one who had aged over the years. Yuan, originally, wanted Lily to compete, but releasing Mobius's Spirit Lock Spatial Zone was technically part of its own ability. Yin asked which floor they needed to reach to face opponents at the Radiance 100 sequence level. Yuan told her not to be so ambitious. She said she was just curious. The staff answered that it would be at least above the 100th floor. He added that there had been some unusual cases over the past 2 days, so it would be best not to run into those people on their first visit to Star Tower. Yuan wondered if that meant there was a chance to challenge strong opponents early. Yin was already looking forward to it. They entered the player preparation room. Inside, they could even set the battlefield and weather conditions. Matchmaking would be based on their first battle. Their first opponent was a battle-hardened veteran with 471 matches. Yin asked if that meant he was strong. Yuan thought probably not, since his highest floor was only 3. That meant he likely got crushed every single match. The battlefield was an open grassland in the morning. The weather was sunny, with no special mechanisms. Yuan decided to send Smarty out first. His exaggerated gestures made Smarty complain that Yuan had been watching too many cartoons. The old man on the other side looked like he could barely stand. He was happy to run into a rookie. If he won this match, he wouldn't need to fight again for the rest of the month. Smarty tried to switch places with Yin, but Yuan whispered for him to just finish it. Since he was already there, he shouldn't go easy just because the opponent was old. The old man warned them not to underestimate the bond between him and his gray shell beetle. He ordered it to use Gnaw. Yuan was about to command Smarty to use a skill, but Smarty had already moved. He simply stepped on it. The old man let out a wail, accusing young people of being heartless. He said he had raised it with care and now had to bury his own child. Smarty argued that this was exactly why he wanted to swap out earlier. Yuan quickly tried to calm the old man, explaining that spiritual creatures weren't truly harmed inside the star web. Even so, Yuan felt disappointed. The match was far lower level than he had imagined. The system generated the next arena. It was nighttime in a ruined city. Dark clouds covered the sky, and the rules stated that the ruins would collapse once enough damage accumulated. A man released his yellow-spotted dog and ordered it to use scent trace so the enemy couldn't escape. At the same time, he commanded the tusk-digging boar to use tusk charge, aiming straight for its vital point. Yuan calmly instructed Yin to use sonic piercing. Yin struck both spirit beasts at once. The man cried out in disbelief, questioning why there was even a copper-tier spiritual creature on that floor. Yuan could only offer him an apologetic smile. As Yuan was teleported to another area, he replayed the man's words in his mind. Even on that floor. He didn't quite understand what he meant. Yuan wanted Smarty to join the next match, but Smarty refused. He felt frustrated. For over 10 matches now, Smarty hadn't been able to do anything before the battles ended. Yuan tried to comfort him, saying they would eventually meet an evenly matched opponent. He then checked the opponent for the next floor. It was Huang Chenglin, 27 years old, a power-type Reiki professional. He had 3 copper-tier spiritual creatures, a poison-fire python, an acid-mist python, and a swamp python. He openly displayed their information, clearly confident in his strength. That instantly excited Smarty and Yin. Finally, he would have a chance to show what he could do. They entered the arena. Chenglin looked surprised to see Yuan appear. He had assumed a newcomer would have given up and retreated by now. After checking Yuan's profile, he thought Yuan might be an expert, until he saw that he only brought a cat and a bird. He mockingly asked if they were there on a sightseeing trip. That confused our MC and even his beasts. To make matters worse, Yuan was a healing-type professional. Chenglin sneered, saying the bird might as well build a nest on the battlefield so people could eat eggs and recover. Yuan felt his patience snap. He told Chenglin that he talked too much and said he was ready to start any time. Chenglin laughed, saying he didn't expect a newcomer who wanted to lose so badly. He claimed he wasn't here to play house with a rookie and would end the fight using only 50% of his power. Just as Yuan suspected, a contractor's mental state affected their spiritual creatures. Chenglin's relaxed attitude made his snakes sluggish and careless. Yuan ordered Yin to use sonic piercing again, targeting the bellies of the 3 snakes. She darted past them and dropped her sharp feathers. To Yuan's surprise, one of the snakes blocked the attack with a spread of acid mist. Chenglin smirked and said he would have been more cautious if the little cat had joined the battle. But since the cat had turned into glasses, he didn't take the bird's attack power seriously. Yuan shouted back, telling him not to underestimate them. He ordered Yin to charge straight ahead and strike the acid mist python's nose. Chenglin assumed Yuan was rushing to his death. He casually commanded the poison fire python to unleash a blast of flames, saying Yuan should be grateful they were on Starweb. Otherwise, the little bird wouldn't even have a grave. Yuan replied that there was no need to worry. He ordered Mobius to open the Spirit Lock spatial zone. The flames caught up to Yin. Chenglin widened his eyes when he saw Yin crash straight into one of his snakes instead of retreating. Yuan told him to stop holding back because he was going all out. He pulled out Lily and activated its healing skill. Chenglin coldly warned him not to blame him for being ruthless. The blue snake charged forward. Yuan shouted for Yin Yin to dodge. It released a blue breath attack, forcing Yin Yin into a desperate retreat. Yuan realized the problem immediately. This was 1 versus 3. Yin Yin was alone on the field, and the pace was far too intense. Even the healing spiritual ki wouldn't last much longer. Smarty suddenly spoke up, saying the analysis of the poison fire python and acid mist python's spray components was complete. He even understood the principles behind them. They finally had a way to counterattack. Yuan immediately ordered Yin Yin to strike the poison fire python's eyes. They would eliminate one first. As the green snake released mist toward her, Yin Yin flew straight at the red snake. Chenglin dismissed it as a useless trick. He ordered the poison fire python to intensify its flames while the acid mist python sealed off her escape route. Yin Yin got trapped between the two snakes, but Yuan seized the opening and commanded Yin Yin to use turbulence. Yin Yin beat her wings furiously, pushing back both the fire and the mist. A stream of flame shot toward the red snake. When it mixed with the surrounding mist, it triggered a violent explosion. The green snake was instantly roasted. Chenglin clicked his tongue in annoyance and cursed it for being useless. Yuan praised Yin Yin, finally understanding that real combat required strategy, not brute force. Chenglin's mind flashed back to a bitter memory. He had once been thrown out and told to abandon his dream of becoming a retainer of the Cheng family. His only worth was staying in the Star Tower, watching for minor characters who might someday threaten the young master. Panic surged through him. He couldn't afford to lose here. Before the chapter ends, Yuan's current spiritual creature levels are shown. Red Thorn is at common grade. Lily, Yin Yin, and Smarty are all copper tier. Mobius and the goldfish are at elite grade. Chenglin ordered the poison fire python to spit poisonous flames at that stupid bird. Yuan told Yin Yin to circle around it and evade. He instructed her to keep her distance, and she followed his command. Smarty informed Yuan that the poison fire python's weakness had been fully evaluated. He marked the weak point. Yuan felt the timing was perfect. The opponent wasn't used to commanding 3 spirit creatures at once, so as long as he caught an opening, he could bring them down. He ordered Yin Yin to use turbulence again. Chenglin sneered and told the poison fire python not to stop. Instead, he ordered it to release poisonous flames at maximum output, non-stop. Yuan told Yin Yin to prepare a sound spike. The moment the poison fire python ran out of fire, Yin Yin struck its weak point. The poison fire python collapsed. Yuan praised Yin Yin for a job well done. Chenglin grew irritated by what he called cheap tricks. He challenged Yuan to fight him head-on if he had any guts. Yuan stared at him like he was talking nonsense. It was 3 against 1, and Chenglin was saying that to him. Mobius whispered for him to mobilize the spirit-absorbing goldfish. Yuan activated Spirit Infusion. The goldfish merged into Yin Yin, and she immediately felt stronger. Yuan didn't expect Spirit Lock to be this effective in real combat. It was practically cheating. The ground suddenly shattered. Water shot up into the sky and slammed toward Yin Yin. Yuan shouted for Yin Yin to dodge. Unfortunately, the spiritual energy link broke before it could fully stabilize. Chenglin revealed that he still had a backup, his marsh python. He ordered it to chase Yin Yin. He coldly stated that all was fair in war. At this point, Yuan had no choice but to gamble. He ordered Yin Yin to use clear skies. Yin Yin flapped her wings and shot forward, her body wrapped in radiant light before crashing down in a blinding burst. The marsh python was startled. Yin Yin's attack hit it head-on, making it jolt backward as if it had been violently rattled. Yuan was stunned. Instead of being burned away, the moment the marsh python touched the radiant light from clear skies, it vanished straight into the air. Chenglin was completely shocked. He found it impossible. He had deliberately come down from a higher level just to crush weaklings. He remembered being told that someone at his level wasn't even qualified to become a retainer of the Cheng family. He admitted that the kid had some skill, but it was unfortunate that he ran into him, a creator. He commanded the marsh python to use that. Yuan had just learned that Chenglin was a creator as well. He was intrigued. Whatever command Chenglin had given, it was enough to make his spirit creature hesitate. The remaining 3 snakes began to glow brightly as Chenglin ordered them to evolve. The marsh python devoured the green snake. It tore its body in half while the red python tried to flee, but the marsh python wrapped around it and bit down. The new spirit creature was called the 3-aspect boa. Its level was copper tier, level 3. Yuan was surprised. It was only copper tier, but he could clearly tell that its state was extremely unstable. It could barely be considered a true evolution. Chenglin explained that the 3-aspect boa was originally an ancient snake species. Over time, it chose to abandon its overwhelming advantages and split itself into 3 separate bodies. He had merely used special methods to restore it to its original form. As for whether it truly counted as evolution, they would find out soon enough. Yuan assessed the situation and felt his heart sink. Turbulence could no longer suppress the flames. Smarty knew Yin couldn't hold on much longer. He wanted to step in, but Yuan told him to wait. The green snake suddenly bit down on the blue snake, while the red snake blasted fire straight at it. Chunglin was stunned. He shouted, demanding to know what was wrong with it. Yuan seized the opening and unleashed turbulence, immediately followed by a sound spike. Yin struck. The blue snake collapsed. Chunglin stared in disbelief at what he was seeing. Smarty realized he had known about this kind of evolution for a long time, but had never had the chance to test it in real combat. He asked Yuan if they were going to continue. By then, Yin was already drowsy from exhaustion. Yuan shook his head. The last exchange had been far too dangerous. They had only won because the opponent was careless enough to expose a fatal opening. On top of that, Yin was completely spent. They canceled the match before anyone else arrived. To Yuan, clearing more than 20 floors in a single day was already impressive. But someone suddenly appeared. The man noticed that Yuan had canceled while he was already on the elevator. He asked if Yuan wanted to fight again. Yuan declined. The man nodded, understanding. He contacted his young master and reported that below the 80th floor, there were no real threats. The biggest obstacle still appeared to be members of the Huyao 100 child selection. The person on the other end replied that this was within expectations. Meanwhile, Yuan was already planning his next steps. He needed to increase his own combat strength as soon as possible. He had to fully cultivate Red Thorn and raise the spirit-absorbing goldfish to Copper Tier as well. Once that happened, Mobius would also advance to Copper Tier. Moments later, Mobius asked Yuan whether he had made up his mind about the Extreme Spirit Goldfish. Yuan replied that he planned to use Dragon Beast Blood to promote its advancement. That way, based on the Cat Spirit's traits, Mobius would also be able to advance to Copper Tier. Mobius confirmed whether Yuan intended to make the Extreme Spirit Goldfish the shop's signature product. There was no avoiding it. Elite-grade Extreme Spirit Goldfish sold extremely well. And since they only evolved slightly faster inside the spirit-transforming pool, Yuan would just have to endure it. The moment he opened the vial, he could feel an oppressive aura pouring out. Even so, using Dragon Beast Blood was still a massive gamble. He silently hoped everything would go smoothly as he poured the liquid into the fishbowl. The spirit beast's eyes widened. The dragon lineage was awakening. Yuan could only hope it would endure. This was the price of metamorphosis. When its eyes turned red, he knew the timing was right. The moment had come, and he prayed it would hold on. Suddenly, the fish leapt out of the bowl. Yuan froze. Had it really worked? The spirit creature before him was now a sleek, brown-scaled fish with a long body, sharp fins, and bright yellow eyes. It looked fierce and predatory. Yuan hadn't expected the changes brought by Dragon Beast Blood to be this drastic. He even wondered if it might grow dragon horns in the future. He couldn't believe it. He had actually evolved the spirit-devouring goldfish into a dragon-type spirit creature at Copper Tier. The spirit creature was now called the Spirit-Gathering Goldfish. Its level was Copper Tier, 1 out of 10, and its quality was common. Yuan immediately felt defensive spiritual energy spreading outward. It truly lived up to its name. All 3 exclusive traits were outstanding. Spiritual energy. Boyle turned it into a fountain of spiritual energy, greatly benefiting other spirit creatures nearby. This trait significantly accelerated the release of spiritual energy. Spiritual energy absorption enhanced its ability to absorb spiritual energy, speeding up both its level growth and quality advancement. Spiritual energy. Mark prevented the spiritual energy it released from dispersing into the environment. Instead, it stored that energy as a mark branded onto the contractor, allowing the contractor to actively release it when needed. Spiritual energy absorption would clearly accelerate its evolution, and if Yuan didn't possess the spirit locking space, he would have chosen that without hesitation. However, spiritual energy mark would allow the spirit-gathering goldfish to form a powerful combo with Lily, creating a true health point recovery master in battle. A low-tier combination like that was practically unheard of. Yuan decided he might as well try it and see if he could carve out a path entirely his own. He asked Mobius how things were on his side. Mobius hadn't expected him to reach Copper Tier so quickly. Yuan was surprised to see that Mobius had grown small legs. The spirit creature's name was Mobius. Its species was unknown. Its level was Copper Tier, 1 out of 10. It was a space-type and mystery-type spirit creature with common quality. The new skill it gained was Elysian Pure Land. The soil generated inside the spirit locking space could effectively heal spirit creatures in a near-death state. The recovery speed depended on Mobius's level and the level of the injured spirit creature. Mobius told Yuan he needed to enter a period of slumber to repair the hidden injuries caused by forming their contract. Yuan asked how long it would take to recover. He also asked whether he needed to buy any spirit materials to help. Mobius replied there was no need for spirit materials and that he didn't know how long recovery would take. Instead, he told Yuan to look at the changes around him. Yuan was shocked. The space had expanded dramatically. The spirit-transforming pool had doubled in size. Even the 5 Blessings Ranchu could fit inside now. The space was enormous, almost comparable to the Starnet shop itself. There was a fenced-off area. Yuan asked if that was the Elysian Pure Land. Mobius confirmed. With his current abilities, any spirit creature below Gold Tier, as long as it still had a single breath left, even if it was on the brink of death, it could be preserved inside the Elysian Pure Land until a treatment method was found. A near-death Gold Tier spirit creature was usually sold as fresh ingredients. Even a 3-star creator wouldn't have a 100% chance of saving it. Yuan felt that the spiritual energy had become denser. Mobius told him that the spiritual energy inside the spirit locking space was now 10 times denser than the outside world. With the Elysian Pure Land and 10-fold spiritual energy, Yuan felt they might finally find a way to handle Gold-tier spirit creatures. If that happened, the goods in his shop might finally qualify to enter the treasure pavilion. Mobius added that the skill was directly linked to his own spiritual energy. As long as his spiritual energy was sufficient, he could even summon the Elysian Pure Land directly in the outside world. In that case, once Yuan activated Spiritual Energy Mark, the conditions to summon Elysian Pure Land would be met. Mobius said Yuan was far more outstanding than he'd imagined. He believed all of that was entirely possible. Yuan felt embarrassed by the praise. Mobius calmly replied that he wouldn't praise him next time. Yuan laughed and told him not to be like that. Yuan told him to wait and see. Before Mobius woke up, he would upgrade him to Silver Tier. Mobius wished him good luck. That said, to upgrade Mobius to Silver Tier, Yuan would need to lock another spirit creature and raise all of them to Silver Tier together. The resource consumption would grow exponentially. There was also the gold-devouring beast at home to consider. Just imagining a few dozen Huiyao coins worth of aberrant bugs being eaten in no time made him want to cry. That meant one thing. He needed to make money fast. Yuan worked tirelessly to earn money. His robot was overwhelmed by customers lining up to buy. Yuan kept working, relentlessly, endlessly, making money without rest. He messaged a client to inform her that the web-spraying spiders she ordered were ready. The client immediately transferred the payment. Eventually, Yuan developed dark circles under his eyes and became skin and bones. While brushing his teeth, he was informed that Redthorn wanted to eat high-grade spirit beast flesh. Smarty said he only realized it after finishing the last textbook. To advance to elite tier, Redthorn required high-grade spirit beast flesh. Ordinary beast flesh was no longer enough. He also noticed that Yuan had been pulling all-nighters for several days and asked if he was all right. Yuan replied that it wasn't a problem. He rinsed his face. When he looked up again, he appeared refreshed. Smarty was shocked. Yuan told him that young people should stay up late more often. Yuan added that recently, his control over spiritual energy had become more and more efficient. That efficiency would only continue to improve. But as for high-grade spirit beast flesh, he would have to ask Sister Shin. He sent her a message asking if she had any high-grade spirit beast flesh. She replied that she did, but it couldn't be displayed on the shop shelves. She could only provide him with the supply channel. Yuan was about to reply that she didn't need to push herself. After all, high-grade spirit beast flesh was notoriously hard to obtain. To his surprise, she answered immediately, and she even had it ready. Yuan set out at once. It was already late, so Smarty asked where he was going. Yuan simply replied that he was heading out to restock. Smarty insisted on coming along. He tied a ribbon around his neck and put on a pair of glasses, the most popular cat-themed look of the year. He had spent ages browsing online to find it. Yuan was confused. He thought Smarty was supposed to help Yin manage the live stream. He told him there was no need. Yin had been doing great with daily streams on her own. Smarty replied that he was so bored he was practically dying. Otherwise, there was no way he'd have enough free time to read textbooks and browse online every day. With that, they headed toward their destination together. Suddenly, something unexpected happened. Several muscular men stepped out and blocked their path. They spoke in a threatening tone, asking where Yuan was headed. If he was going somewhere, they said, they could escort him. Yuan paused. Was Sister Shin's connection actually legit? At the port. Yuan said he was only there to buy high-grade spirit beast flesh. The men immediately denied having any. They reacted far too strongly, insisting they weren't a black market. One of them denied it so hard that he accidentally blurted out the prices. Bronze tier at 20 cons per jin, silver tier at 150,000 per jin, saying a kid like Wen could never afford it. Wen calmly pointed out that they had just exposed themselves. The other two men snapped at him for letting it slip again. Because of that mistake, they'd lose that month's protection. The man argued back, saying the kid wasn't necessarily a spy from the Spirit Suppression Division. Yuan told them he was introduced by Sister Shin. Smarty whispered to Yuan, asking if their brains were even working. The men flexed their muscles as they spoke, telling Yuan they wouldn't believe him so easily. And even if they did, he would still have to get past them first. Either he endured their test, or he'd be bitten to death by their spirit beasts. Smarty got nervous, but Yuan asked if he could hold on since those dogs weren't even elite tier level 2. Smarty said he'd try. But in the next instant, he struck. Smarty sat on top of the defeated hounds, while their master clung to Yuan's legs, still acting tough, saying that even if Yuan beat them, they wouldn't admit anything, and even if he wanted to buy, they still wouldn't sell. Yuan realized just how shameless they were. A man in a suit arrived and ordered them to stop. He scolded them, saying he had already told them to guard the door quietly, yet they were pulling this kind of nonsense. The man apologized to Yuan. He explained that he had just confirmed Yuan's identity with Shin. He said he wouldn't mind doing business with him, but unfortunately he had come too late. They only received one batch of high-tier spirit beast flesh each month, and the latest batch had already been sold. Yuan understood. Many high-tier energy professionals fed beast flesh to their carnivorous spirit beasts. The man then explained why there was no new batch. Those three had been sent to buy high-grade spirit beast flesh, but instead, they brought back high-grade extra-dimensional beast flesh. They reasoned that it looked the same and wasn't meant for people to eat anyway. They even thought they could sell it without taking responsibility. The man grabbed them by the necks, furious. The flesh hadn't even been eaten by their spirit hounds. And worse, it was poisonous. Burying it would contaminate the environment, yet they still dared to say they had sold it to someone else. If that were true, he suggested they eat it themselves. Yuan asked if they could sell the extra-dimensional beast flesh to him instead. The man in the suit was shocked by the request. He warned Yuan that if anything went wrong, there would be no after-sales responsibility. He told him to think carefully. Yuan replied that he understood. Since that was his decision, the man led him inside. The three muscular men immediately changed their attitude, smiling and telling Yuan to come again next time. They even promised him a discount. Smarty asked why Yuan thought it would be the same. Yuan explained that since it was meant for Red Thorn, also a dimensional rift beast, there wasn't much difference. In the end, he received 3,000 jin of dimensional beast flesh. It was so toxic that Yuan had to wear full protective gear. Smarty couldn't believe Yuan was feeding Red Thorn while dressed in a full hazmat suit and holding the flesh with tongs. Even if Red Thorn wanted to eat it, Yuan was still worried it might be harmed by it. To his surprise, Red Thorn didn't take what was on the tongs. Instead, it gulped down an entire bucket. Yuan tried to stop it, but it was already too late. He realized that Red Thorn didn't have immunity to the flesh's corrosiveness. Yuan blamed himself for being too reckless. He wondered if Lily's healing abilities would even work on dimensional beasts. Then, Yuan was stunned. Red Thorn began to recover, and even multiply. Yuan realized it might have adapted to the corrosive properties, but he was confused when the vines started twisting together in strange patterns. Smarty told him that it was searching for a new evolutionary direction. Yuan realized that it could be strengthening its vines to enhance its offensive power. Red Thorn evolved. It glowed red and let out a shrill scream as dark, eye-shaped energy and thorny vines closed in around it. A sinister grin formed as several vines lifted its body off the ground. But suddenly, it wilted. Yuan asked what was wrong. It seemed to have entered dormancy again. Every time it automatically generated an evolutionary direction based on Yuan's instructions, it consumed a massive amount of stamina. Yuan also believed that if it only evolved barbed vines, there was no way it could break through the defenses of powerful defensive-type spirit beasts. Yinyan called out to him and asked what he thought of her writing. She handed him a piece of paper with her signature on it. She planned to turn it into merchandise. Yuan was left speechless. Smarty even asked who would want something like that. Yinyan replied that her top supporters definitely would. Smarty asked if she meant the one who constantly sent gifts and even randomly tipped over 500 at a time. Yuan agreed. that definitely counted as a die-hard fan. He hadn't expected Yinyan's live streams to be doing so well. In the note, Yinyan wrote that when they went to Zijing City, Yuan should bring 2 copies for Xiaojue. She was certain her signature would become a collectible in the future. Yuan agreed. Smarty noticed that Yuan was heading out again. Yuan confirmed it. He said he had been preparing for this for a long time. Smarty had no idea what he meant. Yuan showed him the monitor displaying the announcement for the creator examination registration. Smarty finally understood. It was starting at last. He said all those days of studying hadn't been for nothing. Together, they set off for the creator examination at Zijing City's Creator Guild. Applicants lined up at the entrance one after another. They submitted their documents to the staff. One female staff member thought that her grandfather should come out on occasions like this to encourage the examinees of Zijing City. She had no idea what he was busy preparing in his office. The grandfather she was thinking about was inside, having tea with someone. That person was Elder Ning, the vice president of the Zijing City Creator Guild, and a 4-star creator. He was joined by Elder Meng, the dean of the Creator Academy at the Royal Capital Advanced Spirit Energy University, and Elder Du, the vice president of the Royal Capital Creator Guild. Elder Meng stated that for this year's creator examination in Zijing City, he intended to adjust the difficulty of the test questions. Elder Ning asked why. Elder Du explained that after Sikong returned from Piyue Mountain and proposed reforms, they had all felt it was too sudden. Their original plan was to treat this year as a buffer and implement the official reforms next year. Elder Meng added that no one expected Zijing City to be chosen as the pilot site, nor did they expect Elder Ning, the vice president of the Zijing City Creator Guild, to actually agree to it. Elder Ning replied calmly that he was a 4-star creator, so he had the authority. Besides, as they all knew, this was Lady Yuehu's intention. She wanted to take in a disciple. Elder Meng recalled that Lady Yuehu had only said the reform was meant to select more outstanding young talents. They couldn't understand how that connected to her wanting to accept a disciple. Moreover, if Lady Yuehu truly wished to take a disciple, she would naturally choose with great care. They questioned why she would insist on selecting one through this particular examination, especially when only Zijing City had begun the pilot reform. Elder Du agreed, stating that whether they came from creator families or academies, the members of the Radiant 100 were all exceptionally talented. Elder Ning let out a small chuckle and agreed on the surface. But deep down, he called them old foxes, fully aware that he was being pressured to go along with their intentions. Meanwhile, Smarty and Yuan rode a bird. Yuan said he didn't expect they'd be flying again so soon. Yinyan had to stay home to stream, so Smarty joked that Yuan would end up flying more than her. Yuan told him that wouldn't happen and reminded him to be careful so he wouldn't fall. When they landed, Smarty suggested visiting Shui first. Yuan knew he tagged along just to see her, but he explained that he planned to visit after becoming a creator. Smarty confidently said that with him around, they would definitely pass the creator assessment this time. Yuan patted his head and boosted his ego, saying he was reliable. Smarty exclaimed at how luxurious the facilities were and how wide the streets looked. Yuan said that was to be expected since they were in the city. It would naturally be far more extravagant than the subordinate Xia Prefecture. Smarty was thrilled to see so much food around. Yuan reminded him that they were there for the creator assessment and told him to stay focused. Smarty noticed many people who looked weak and thought they were heading to the hospital. He commented that everyone seemed to be in poor condition. Yuan clarified that they were going to the exam site and were probably just nervous since the creator assessment's pass rate was notoriously brutal. Once an applicant failed, they couldn't retake the assessment for an entire year. They arrived at the office entrance, and Smarty felt relieved that there weren't many examinees. However, he noticed how extravagantly dressed they were. Yuan warned him to watch what he said since they were inside the city lord's administrative office. They saw a sign stating the examination site was 100 meters ahead, but the line leading to it was incredibly long. Smarty's eyes widened at the sight of the queue. Yuan told him to hurry up and perform equipment manifestation. Smarty protested, saying others were allowed to bring spirit creatures into the exam hall as well. Yuan explained that using spirit creatures during exams was already very common, which was exactly why he had made Smarty memorize all that knowledge. Smarty transformed into a pair of eyeglasses. Just from the building alone, he could tell how exalted the Creator Guild status was. Examinees who had finished were being ushered toward the exit. Almost all of them looked drained and hopeless. Seeing this, the female staff member wondered if it was really that difficult. She realized that the vice chairman hadn't held back at all this year. She then called the next group of examinees to prepare. In a moment, they would submit their beginner certifications for 3 lifestyle-type aura professions. After the exam, they were to collect their scorecards and retrieve their certifications from her. Yuan was shocked when he heard this, as he didn't have any beginner certifications. He told the staff that he had heard the Creator Guild could directly conduct beginner tests for 3 lifestyle-type aura professions. Internally, the staff couldn't believe someone actually wanted to take such a broad knowledge assessment directly under the vice chairman. She explained that it was possible, but the Creator Guild could only assess 3 knowledge-based lifestyle aura professions: Scholar, Spirit Creature Observer, and Spirit Material Analyst. In other words, the 3 with the highest difficulty. Yuan replied that those 3 would be fine. Since that was his decision, she ushered him into the room. Internally, she worried about his confidence. For daring to register for all 3, he might suffer greatly later. At the City Lord's administrative building, Elder Du and Elder Meng stood to the side, observing. Elder Du commented that the news had spread, as Elder Ning had received quite a few visitors. Elder Meng replied that it was just customary formalities. Otherwise, to save 3 years of waiting between 1-star and 2-star advancement, people would definitely come to visit them directly. Elder Du was worried that approaching Elder Ning directly would draw unwanted attention. Elder Meng told him he was overthinking it. He knew Ning enjoyed showing off his knowledge. In fact, in previous years, whenever the 3 Aura Profession Advancement exams were held under him, he took pleasure in blocking large numbers of applicants. Elder Du wondered just how difficult advancement from level 1 to level 2 really was. Elder Meng replied that Elder Ning was simply stubborn. That man loved his creator career so much that he demanded everyone else take it just as seriously. Catching his attention was never easy. Meanwhile, the staff informed Yuan that the questions set by the Creator Guild were far trickier than those from other lifestyle profession guilds. Yuan replied that it was fine. He had already known that when he chose to take the exam there. Suddenly, a door opened. They were in the faculty lounge. Elder Ning appeared and saw the staff trying to usher the examinee away. He explained that he never set questions beyond the syllabus. Everything was covered within those 300-plus books. The staff addressed him as vice chairman, but he insisted on being called Grandpa. She reminded him that they had agreed to stay professional during work hours. Yuan silently judged the old man as someone who clearly liked taking advantage of others. The vice chairman argued that there was nothing wrong with a granddaughter calling her own grandpa. He disliked how others made his granddaughter afraid to show concern for him. She chose to end the discussion when she noticed an examinee present. Elder Ning then turned to Yuan and said he was quite daring to take the beginner exam directly at the Creator Guild. He asked whether Yuan had prepared thoroughly. Yuan replied that he would give it his all. He said that without trying, he wouldn't know what was difficult, and that what he already knew wouldn't be difficult anyway. Behind them, the female staff felt certain he was doomed. The vice chairman began with what he called an easy question. Megalodon and Leviathan whales were both dominant rulers of the prehistoric tertiary oceans. They had contended for tens of millions of years without a clear victor. He asked Yuan which of the 2 he believed was stronger. The female staff was horrified. Her grandpa had brought up an old question from Starnet Academia, one that had been debated for over a decade without conclusion. It was clearly beyond the syllabus. She decided to give the examinee a hint. She told her grandpa that he specialized in Megalodon research, so if he wanted people to answer Megalodon, he should have said so. Yuan calmly replied that the question had been answered long ago. He stated that both of them were weak. Elder Ning asked why Yuan would say that. Yuan explained that it was because both species were eliminated in the course of evolution. Neither the Megalodon nor the Leviathan whale existed in the present era. Even if modern whales or sharks underwent atavistic mutations, they would no longer be the true Megalodon or Leviathan of the past. Elder Ning fell silent. His granddaughter knew how rare it was to see him speechless. It was even more unusual that he didn't explode in anger after hearing someone call Megalodon weak. He asked Yuan to elaborate further. His granddaughter muttered that this was his usual stance when he deliberately picked a fight. He was far too narrow-minded whenever Megalodon was involved. Yuan explained that during the tertiary oceans, Megalodon and Leviathan whales, as apex predators, occupied the ecological peak for long periods. Ironically, this slowed the overall evolution of marine life. It wasn't until about 65 million years ago, when a meteor struck Earth and triggered a massive event of natural selection, that the oceans entered a new quaternary era. From a creator's perspective, focused on survival and evolution, Megalodon and Leviathan were powerful for a time. However, because they failed to adapt to drastic environmental changes, they were ultimately eliminated. In the broader course of evolution, that made them weak. Elder Ning suddenly clapped his hands and praised the answer. He said it was good. He was glad to finally hear such a meaningful insight. His granddaughter felt relieved, pleased that this hurdle had been cleared. Elder Ning told her that he would personally take the young man to undergo the assessment for the 3 knowledge-based aura professions. He was eager to see what level these youngsters had truly reached. She gave Yuan a thumbs up. As they left the room, they immediately drew attention. Everyone wondered who Yuan was for Elder Ning to personally escort him to the exam hall. Some suspected he was the heir of a creator family, while others believed he was a key talent cultivated by the association. Their curiosity grew because Elder Ning hadn't done this in 10 years. As they walked, Elder Ning reminded Yuan that scholarship valued attitude and methodology, but above all, the ability to remain calm. He then scolded the onlookers for staring, instead of studying properly, and threatened to fail them on the spot. Yuan took his seat with 3 examination papers laid out in front of him. He was told to begin. Yuan felt proud of Smarty as knowledge streamed into him without pause. Smarty whispered that the questions were extremely tricky. Some answers could only be found hidden in the prefaces of the books. Elder Ning observed Yuan's steady strokes, swift writing, and calm demeanor. Those were solid fundamentals. He estimated Yuan would need about 2 hours to finish and already considered him a promising talent. 1 hour later, Yuan submitted his examination papers. He asked whether he could proceed to the creator assessment right away. Internally, he felt confident. Smarty's information bank had carried him smoothly through the test. Unexpectedly, Elder Ning told him to stay. He wouldn't be taking the assessment that day. Yuan was left stunned and